The General Strike, 1926. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Speech given by Winston Churchill to the House of Commons, 3rd May, 1926. The Right Honourable Gentleman has certainly preserved the calm and restraint which he enjoined upon others, and, indeed, the extreme self-control which the House has shown throughout this debate is the measure of the deep anxiety and sorrow we all feel at the miserable turn which the fortunes of our country have taken. We gladly recognize the efforts for peace which have been made by the Trade Union Committee, by the Right Honourable Gentleman who spoke last, and, of course, by the Right Honourable Gentleman, the Member for Derby, who has striven with all the compulsive and persuasive powers of his nature and of his experience to bring about a warding off of this shocking disaster in our national life. We too have striven for peace, and we have deeds as well as words which can be quoted. We have the subsidy of £24 million which we have provided, although it ruined and shattered the finance of 2 successive years, and which we have paid for, and which is there. We have also provided another sum of approximately £3 million, which could be used to ease the bump where the changeover from subsidy to no subsidy would have involved very serious grievance. A sum of £3 million at the present rate of subsidy, applied to the districts where the change would have involved the greatest hardship, would have been a very substantial alleviation for probably 3 months. Then, apart from making this immense contribution in the money of the taxpayer, we have accepted boldly and frankly the recommendations of the report as far as it falls upon us to do so. We did not pretend that we agreed with them. The very idea of finding £100 million or more to buy out the owners of mining royalties implies an operation upon our credit deeply injurious to the whole of our conversion situation. We had our doubts about municipal trading in coal, and there were other points, but when it came to a question of this great hope of settlement passing away because, forsooth, while both the other parties adhered to the report, the government were not able to give its whole-hearted acquiescence, we said, never mind what our opinions on these points have been, we will make the sacrifice of those political opinions in order that the matter shall not fall to the ground through any failure on our part. The Right Honourable Gentleman, the member for Carnarvon Boroughs, asked what would happen if the owners had not accepted and if the miners had accepted. Well, as far as I am able to state the case shortly, the owners have given a general acceptance with very small reservations, and I am quite certain that if these small reservations were the only outstanding points, negotiation and, if necessary, parliamentary action would ultimately have adjusted those very small outstanding points. If I say that we on our side made great efforts for peace, and if we freely acknowledge the efforts of the parliamentary leaders of the party opposite, I am not quite prepared, quite frankly, to extend that tribute to my right honourable friend the member for the Carnarvon. I do not think his record on the subject entitles him to censure and criticize the government. What is the right honourable gentleman doing today? He is criticizing us for not making a further prolongation of the subsidy. He has criticized us for not doing that at a time when a general strike is actually about to take place in the country. What did my honourable friend say 9 months ago in July last? I have no quarrel with the right honourable gentleman opposite on that point. When we gave the subsidy in July last, the right honourable gentleman, the member for Ogmore, Mr. Hartshorn, said they were grateful and recognized it as a help. If it is not a settlement, they said, thank God, it does tide us over, and they accepted it with thankfulness. But my right honourable friend, the member for Carnarvon, used it as an occasion for derision and scorn, which he heaped upon the government, and not only did he criticize the subsidy, he criticized the giving of the subsidy under the threat nothing like so definite as that which we have now, not a threat of a general strike. He said we had given the subsidy not because of any considered judgment, but because of the threat that was made, and added, quite frankly, the government were afraid of facing cold steel. That was the line of argument used by the right honorable gentleman 9 months ago, when there was a great justification for the subsidy, namely, that the facts of the coal trade were not known, and had never been fully explored. I do not think it is possible for the right honorable gentleman to justify that line of argument which he used 9 months ago, or reconcile it with the kind of appeal which he has made to us to be reasonable, to put aside any influence of threats and so on, which might be in our minds, and to extend the subsidy on this occasion. I must say that among all the very excellent sentiments which have been expressed this afternoon, there has been no success in evading the grim, obvious underlying facts of the situation. The first fact of the situation is that we are told we must now continue the subsidy. All this talk about withdrawing lockout notices and giving time for further consideration and allowing negotiation to be continued reduces itself down to this, that we are to go on paying the subsidy. There is nothing else in it. It is no good our saying, withdraw the lockout notices, when the owners will ask how they are to conduct their business at a loss, provable, I believe, on the figures of about £600,000 a week. Therefore, if the lockout notices are to be withdrawn, that is only another way of saying you must continue the subsidy. I do not take up an unreasonable position about that matter. In the budget I revealed deliberately and by design to the House the fact that I still possessed £3 million, which could be used as a taper, which could actually be used for a prolongation of a fortnight or 3 weeks, but that before we undertook that step it was essential that we should be in a position to say honestly that we believed reasonably there was some prospect of matters being further advanced at the end of that period. I can only give a general outline of what has passed, although I have followed with deep interest and close attention all the negotiations. I have not been involved in the actual personal conduct of these negotiations. My right honorable friend opposite has seen me waiting about outside doors at critical meetings and keeping in the closest touch with events, but I have not been present myself, and therefore if I state anything which is not precisely and exactly what occurred, honorable and right honorable gentleman opposite will understand. I have, however, a general view of the position, and I have the information of my colleagues here in regards to particular details, and I say without hesitation that the impression left upon me is that, for all practical purposes, the miners have not budged 1 inch since July last. I do not see, and I do not know in what practical way they have at all rescinded from the position which they then held so strongly and intensely that there must not be 1 minute's prolongation of the time, or 1 shilling's diminution of the wage. If they will not accept a reduction of wages, and if the owners cannot be forced to carry on the business at a loss, it is perfectly clear the only alternative left is for the state to continue the subsidy for a prolonged period. Does anybody suppose that the continuance of the subsidy for a fortnight is going to allow this matter to be settled? I cannot believe it for 1 moment. How can we justify prolonging this subsidy while the coal trade is being reorganized?
Mr. Thomas, there is a very important point here. I only deal with the question of the fortnight. Is the right honourable gentleman aware that the advisers of the government actually told us on Saturday night that there might be a possibility of getting general agreement on the basis of their report within another 2 days?
The Chancellor of the Exchequer allows me to speak. It was said it might be possible to get agreement. Some people who were most optimistic said in a couple of days, and some said in a fortnight. And, as the right honourable gentleman knows, ideas as to the time differed. The real question at issue was this: that there would be no real guarantee or assurance whatever that, if an extension